All right, everybody, back again here, week 4 in the college football streets. Let's get to it here on DraftKings. Hopefully, everybody's having a great start to the season. Hopefully, everybody's banging some winners here, hitting the top of these GPPs. DraftKings looks like they're opening up some more rooms, obviously, is a good sign. More people are playing. So be smart about the contest you're picking and bankroll management and everything. But yeah, let's rock and roll here. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Obviously, bringing you a ton of college as well as NFL content, both DFS, fantasy, and gambling. So let's get to it. Games on the early slate here for DraftKings. We have Florida going to Mississippi State. Both programs a complete disaster. State is a 5.5-point home dog to Florida. We'll get into each of these as we go. I'm going to do things a little bit differently this show and just kind of go position by position, bringing it back old school here versus game by game. I think that is a little bit more efficient, just kind of getting to the nut of it as far as my favorite plays go. So Florida goes down to Mississippi State. Good luck watching that one. Marshall is paying a trip to Ohio State, who is another 40-point favorite at home. Hopefully here eventually this season, we'll see Ohio State play a real team and we'll get a real game out of them. Houston goes to Cincinnati, where the Bearcats are a 3.5-point favorite at home. Pretty marginal team totals here on these ones, 22-26. A little bit lower than that Florida-Mississippi game, and Ohio State, obviously, with a 40-point team total. Wrapping it back around, since I forgot the first two, Kansas goes to West Virginia. Both healthy point totals in this one, 27 and 30. West Virginia is a 2.5-point home favorite. We got NC State going to Clemson. It's a 20.5-point favorite right now at home. Clemson is with a 33-point team total. We just saw NC State rule out Grayson McCall. So, the pack is down bad, but we'll see who we like out of that one. Arkansas goes to Auburn, where Auburn's a 3-point favorite at home. Maybe they found their quarterback. We'll see. UCLA goes to LSU. LSU is a 24.5-point home favorite, which I feel like is a little bit low, to be honest. If you've watched this UCLA team play, you'll know why. Arizona State goes to Texas Tech. They are expecting high-flying offenses in this one. Both teams hovering around a 30-point team total. Notre Dame hosts Miami of Ohio. 28-point home favorite is the Irish. Louisville hosts Georgia Tech, where they're a 10.5-point home favorite. And then let's see, Rutgers goes to Virginia Tech, and USC to Michigan. Oh, and Utah goes to Oklahoma State. So a lot of games here, a lot of games on this one. Let's go ahead and just rock and roll and dive into, like I said, position by position here. Who are some of my favorites? Just kind of looking at the slate overall. Doing this show a little bit earlier in the week as I have some family obligations and won't be able to do it later in this week. So put a pin in it. Obviously, anything that I talk about, things can change, especially in the college world as we lead up to Saturday. But here's kind of who I'm liking early on. When you look at the quarterback position, above 8K is pretty much, man, they listed a lot of people above 8K here, but nobody's outrageously priced. You've got Levitt and Morton in that shootout down in Lubbock. I think both guys are in play. I'd probably lean Morton's side of things if I had to. He's averaging almost 30 DraftKings points a game. I know he had that stinger versus Washington State, but at the same time, that's really the only real team that they've played. So Morton gives me a little bit of pause. Same with Levitt, as much as Arizona State is in a good spot here. They do like running the football. Moving on down, Allen Bowman. Man, I don't really know what the Pokes are doing. I know they're winning games, but they have not really leaned on Ollie Gordon here. Bowman, the last two games, has really let it fly. He's thrown for over 30 times each game this season, and 2 weeks ago in Arkansas was 48 times. I know his stats are going to be a little bit skewed versus from that Tulsa game last week, but Bowman, I think at 8,300 is going to be the guy highest up that I have a little bit of interest in. Will Howard, 8,300 as well. We always worry about blowout potential here with Ohio State, and they can score in a million different ways. So I'm not really looking to go to Howard either. Klubnik, 26.8 points a game he's averaging. He's up there. I think Klubnik's a little bit interesting because I could see, if they get ahead, as we saw against App State, they really wanted to get Klubnik going. And really get his confidence built up. You saw him throw 378 yards and 5 touchdowns. I don't think it will be quite as dramatic, but we just saw Tennessee tear this team a new one. I could see Clemson at home getting up and really letting this thing go. So Klubnik, a little bit of interest. Bowman, a little bit of interest. Miller Moss, not too much on the road. Michigan still is a good team. Good defense, at least. So I don't really love that. I think the next guy I'd probably look to is Nussmeier. Again, LSU does not quite have a running game. We'll touch on that here when we get to it. But Nussmeier, 8,100, I think is interesting. He's put up points in pretty much every matchup he has played in. Last week was down versus South Carolina, but they've got a much better defense than he will face this week versus UCLA. So I could see him hitting value here. The problem is, can UCLA keep it close? They just got rocked by Indiana at home, so a little bit nervous there. Drones is there versus Rutgers, but Rutgers plays good defense. Shapen, I think, is interesting at 8K. So we're starting to get, all these guys are kind of right in the same price range. So I think you can take shots on a lot of them. I think if you want to look to Shapen, Drones, Nussmeier, Klubnik, Bowman, I think you could look to any of these guys and build a stack around. My favorites, if I'm probably leaning this way, you're taking a dice roll going against Ollie here, but I think it would be Bowman, Klubnik, and Nussmeier if I had to pay up. Going down below kind of this 8K mark. I guess one other guy is we did see Jalen Daniels really get going a little bit last week versus UNLV. I know they lost, but you saw him get involved with his legs. That was nice to see, but the Kansas offense is just not quite as dynamic as it was last year early on. The next guy I have a ton of interest in is Cam Rising at 7,900. I'm really big on this Utah team. I think Cam Rising in his 14th season here for Utah is obviously a damn good player who has command of the offense. They've shown they will trust him, obviously, with the rock and open things up more. And I think this game environment against Oklahoma State is a good one. We've seen them be able to stop just about nobody this season. And I think Utah could very easily get 30, 40-plus points in this one. So Cam Rising is probably my top target here at 7,900. I think Garrett Green is interesting at 7,800. He's just a fantasy quarterback, obviously. He has those spike potential games, which is what we've seen before. You're not paying top dollar for him, which is what I like. He's kind of right here in the middle. But Garrett Green, you could look to. Riley Leonard, obviously not a great quarterback, but I think he's interesting in this matchup as he's a guy who will, with his legs, kind of get value on his own. So I don't necessarily mind this here where Notre Dame's a huge home favorite. You could very easily see Riley Leonard, running in 2-3 touchdowns again. The next grouping here is probably where my favorite is on the slate. I would say Haynes King down here at 7,600 and Taylon Green. Right there, right below him at 7,500 are two of my favorites. I think Green speaks for himself. He can run, he can throw. That offense under Petrino has been great for Arkansas this year. I did see Jackson. It was not on the depth chart earlier this week, which was pretty interesting. If they don't have him, I could see them really putting the ball in Green's hands big time moving forward. Road matchup. It's going to be a hostile environment down there at Auburn, but I think this is a pretty good spot. King as well. Again, I think that Louisville game and Georgia Tech is going to be just a good one. So you're going to get a competitive environment. I think those are pretty good targets there. Sorsby down here at 7,300 is interesting just from the pricing alone. We've seen him have good games and he can get you kind of that 25, 30 point upside when he's really humming. And if you're going to go way down, you got Show at Louisville, 7,200. And then you can go to Hammer and Hank Brown. I think he's going to be making a second start here. I think he was announced for sure. He looked really good. I know the matchup obviously wasn't great versus New Mexico, but Auburn finally looked like they had a little bit of a spark offensively. So he is definitely interesting for me. So kind of to bubble wrap this up here, Bowman, Klubnik, Nussmeier, if you're going up. I think in the mid tier, you can look to Rising and Riley Leonard. And then if you're going to go down, I think Green and whoa, where was I going? Green, Show, and Hammer and Hank, I think down here all have legs, so to speak. Not touching the Florida quarterback situation. They came out and said they're going to continue to rotate quarterbacks. Billy Napier just buying his time, dead man walking down there in the swamp. So unfortunate for him, but Gator fans won't have to put up with it too much longer. Moving on to running back, Ollie Gordon up top. Not much needs to be said, except we don't really know what's going on workload-wise. We saw them out of the gates kind of come up with a 27 carry, day. He also was involved in the passing game, and his usage has dropped dramatically the last 2 games. 5 DraftKings points last game. Are you kidding me? So it's going to be interesting because, one, people are still going to play him. People are going to hope that spike week comes back. I just don't know if it's going to be Utah. Utah has a really good defense. But I also think Oklahoma State has to find a way to control the clock here and not let Utah get the ball on offense and control the game themselves. So I don't really know what to do here. He's $1,700 more than any other running back on the slate. I want to fade him. I'll probably fade him majority of my lineups and have just a splash of Ollie Gordon this week. But if you want to ride him and he goes bananas, you're in play, because I don't think he's going to be highly owned after the last 2 games. Going down, Taj Brooks, he's the man for Texas Tech, 7,800, good matchup versus Arizona State. You had Tootin here. He is limited early in the week for practice for Virginia Tech, but I think he'll be fine in a go versus Rutgers, but that's a tough matchup. I would like to play the other side of that, which is Monagai at 7,600 if I'm going there. I'm not interested in Dylan Edwards. Woody Marks, tough matchup, but he's the guy for USC if you want to go there. Let's see. Scadaboo, I think, is very much in play. If you had to look at it right now, he is just a complete workhorse for the Sun Devils. Again, I like him a lot. Jackson is the one to keep an eye on. As I mentioned, I saw earlier on Twitter that he was not listed on the depth chart on Tuesday. Super interesting. Don't really know what's going on there. If he plays, I'm in. If obviously we get word he's not in, I'm going to be probably leaning more Taylon Green in this one. Judkins can always play him, but as we've seen, him and Travion are going to just split touches. So I don't really love that there. I think Mullings from Michigan is more the interesting back if you want to play this side of it. The problem is they just don't really know who they are as an offense. So if I'd get 20 touches out of Mullings, I would be in, but I don't know what they're planning to do. Rumors have it they're going to start Alex Orji possibly this week. So he's a running quarterback. Does he take away, touches and goal line touches, especially from Mullings as well as Edwards? Just not really my cup of tea, if I had to be honest here. You've got going down TJ Harden for UCLA. No, they're garbage. Jaquiz Hunter for Auburn at 6,300. He got finally 20 touches last game. And what do you know? They look pretty good. Maybe if I know that he's going to get the bell cow work again, I have interest there. Haynes is going to be in a tough matchup here versus Louisville, but it should be a good game. So I do have interest in Haynes. Maffa, I already told you how I feel about that one. I think they are going to let Klubnik throw the ball around. I think going down the guys that I really like, Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame, he's going to be popular. No doubt about it with this price tag. He should be like 6,500, 7,500. So, man, expect him to carry some serious chalk is my opinion here. Kiner for Cincinnati, I think, is interesting. I played him last week. Play it off for me. He's the guy. And then Donaldson for me, West Virginia is another one that I have quite a bit of interest in, as he's just kind of evolved into the reliable back for West Virginia. And the interesting one, obviously, in here. So going down a little bit lower, I think it's tough to find value here. There's one guy that I do have some interest in. He popped on the scene for LSU last week. Just pulling up his name just to make sure. And that is Caden Durham. He rushed 11 times, 98 yards, touchdown or 2 touchdowns for LSU last week. He kind of came into the game and then absolutely stole the show. And I don't know if he's necessarily going to steal the job, but I'd imagine they're going to see what they got in this kid. I like taking some shots on him. He's 4,100. I think he could be a huge boost to your lineup, and he is very interesting on this slate. Receivers, man, there's so many. It's hard to really go through them. You have just so many guys that could absolutely pop off. Lacey up top, super expensive, but he's in a great matchup here. Conception, I don't know. Clemson's a tough matchup. I think they get blown out, especially with backup quarterback here. Jeremiah Smith is finally way up at 7,500, so you're not going to just get a layup play out of him. Presley, 7,400. Him and Armstrong, I think, are probably my 2 favorites here in this range. I already, if it hasn't been clear already, I really like this Oklahoma State and Auburn games and the game environments on this slate. I think Xavier Henderson at 6,700 is very well priced, and I think I'll be going to him quite a bit. Josh Kelly, 6,500 for Texas Tech. Definitely want some of him. Kuthi for Utah. If I'm going to Cam Rising, he's a must-have in my lineups. He's not going to be necessarily a huge volume monster, but he's a guy that Cam Rising looks to every single time in the red zone. As we saw the first week, he had 4 catches and 3 touchdowns. So even if he doesn't get a massive volume, his target share potential is huge there. Going down, just kind of touching on some of the guys that I have interest in. Stribling for Oklahoma State popped off last week. So he is solid. I think Tyson for Arizona State's in a good spot. Eakin for Texas Tech. Moving down. I think Coleman for Mississippi State has had a really good season, 5,500 down there. He's kind of the main guy in that offense. He's gotten over 75 yards and scored in every game this season. He's going to be very popular, is my opinion, but, he's a really good play, I think. Going down, I think Rico Flores for UCLA is an interesting little bring back if you're going to UCLA stacks. Elijah Badger, keep an eye on him. We don't know if Eugene Wilson's going to play. Even if he does, I think Badger is definitely just cementing himself into the offense. Finally, he has looked really solid. 5K even. Singleton is always a go. Same with Rutherford down here in that 4,800 to 5K range. They're just good target guys. They're going to get a lot of catches for you. And if they pop one in, you're in serious business. Ja'Cory Brooks for Louisville seems to be the main target down there for them. He has had 80-plus yards in every game I believe they've played this year, so he is a good option. This Fitzpatrick guy, I don't think a lot of people are going to be playing him versus Ohio State because no one goes off versus Ohio State. So tread a little bit lightly down there. And then I think there's some guys for USC that provide value. You've got Lemon who starts and rotates in. Thompson for Louisville down here at 4,300. Mosley, Mississippi State. I think you've got, Anderson for LSU. So there's a lot of guys down here I think that are definitely playable. It's just going to come down to how you decide to construct your lineups and what you decide to do here with your teams. So that's kind of my main guys. If you're looking for real bargain hunting down here, Joe Royer for Cincinnati is interesting. 3,800 double-digit DraftKings points every week so far. He's definitely a part of the offense. He isn't just a guy who comes in during blowups or whatnot. Scrolling down to see if I can find anybody else that's interesting. I think Lake McCree is another interesting play for USC. He's down here at 3,800. He's the tight end for USC. I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else that you could possibly look to. I guess if you wanted to look to Cole Taylor for West Virginia, You could do worse. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the main guys that I want to get into my lineups. Obviously, just about everybody's in play, but that's kind of my high level overview of the slate. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys, kind of an earlier in the week look. Obviously, I'm sure you have other sources as well, but just a quick little 20-minute breakdown of what to look for on Saturday. And you should start kind of looking at roster construction and how you're going to do it. Again, feel free, don't feel free. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop me a note on Twitter. As I mentioned, I'm going to be kind of out of commission later this week. So any tips, any help would be much appreciated. And good luck, everybody, this